It was a cold night in Los Angeles when the world first heard the name Eli Ramos, a Filipino janitor whose trembling voice would soon echo through the golden walls of the Dolby Theater. He wasn't famous. He wasn't young. He wasn't even supposed to be there. But fate, in its strange and beautiful cruelty, had reserved a single spotlight for him, a man whose poor body had carried more heartbreak than most could imagine. Eli had worked at that theater for nearly 10 years. Every night he swept the aisles, polished the floors, and emptied the trash after the lights went out. He knew every creak of the stage, every smell of the velvet curtains, every echo that lingered when the audience had gone home. Yet, deep down, he dreamed not of applause or fame, but simply of being heard. He used to hum while cleaning, low, husky tunes from old rock legends that no one listened to anymore. One of them was his favorite, Hotel California. It was the song his late wife, Maria, had loved. Back in the Philippines, when they were young and hopeful, she used to dance barefoot on their rooftop while he strummed his battered guitar. Someday, she'd said, eyes glimmering like morning dew, you'll sing that song on a big stage. People will remember you. He had laughed, thinking it impossible. Yet now, decades later, the stage was right in front of him every night, just beyond the mop he held. One day, posters began appearing on the walls backstage. America's Got Talent, open auditions. The words haunted him. He watched contestants rush in and out with guitars, costumes, and dreams too bright to look at. He told himself he was too old, too poor, too invisible. But on one particularly lonely night, as he mopped the stage after another dazzling show, he noticed a microphone still left in the center. He stood there for a moment, mop in hand, staring at the empty seats. The silence was thick. He looked around. No one was there. Something inside him whispered, "Sing." He placed the mop aside, stepped up to the mic, and let out a shaky breath. On a dark desert highway. His voice cracked at first, weak and unsure. But then, as he sang, something shifted. His pain, his loss, his years of labor, all poured out. The empty theater filled with a ghostly beauty, as if the walls themselves were listening. He didn't know that a young sound technician named Laura had come back to retrieve her phone and had stopped in the shadows, mesmerized. When he finished, tears glistened in her eyes. She stepped forward slowly and clapped once, softly. Eli turned, startled. "Sir," she said, voice trembling, "you need to audition. Please. People have to hear you." He shook his head, embarrassed. "I'm just the janitor. My voice is poor. My body is tired. I'm nobody." Laura smiled. "Then let the poor body sing. Sometimes, that's all the world needs." 2 days later, Eli stood in line outside the theater, not as a janitor, but as a contestant. He wore his old denim jacket, the one Maria had embroidered with little stars. His hands trembled as he held his guitar case. Around him, young hopefuls laughed, practiced riffs, filmed TikToks. He felt completely out of place. When it was finally his turn, he walked on stage, facing Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel. The lights were blinding. Simon squinted. "Hello, sir. What's your name?" "Eli Ramos," he replied softly. Clean here sometimes." The audience chuckled gently. Simon tilted his head. "You clean here? Well, welcome to your stage, Eli. What are you singing for us tonight?" Eli swallowed hard. "Hotel California. For my wife." Simon raised an eyebrow. "A classic. Let's hear it." He began to play, fingers trembling at first. But as the familiar chords filled the air, the world around him disappeared. He wasn't in a theater anymore. He was back home, under a humid Manila sky, Maria spinning under fairy lights. His voice deepened, cracked, rose again, carrying decades of love and sorrow. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. The audience fell silent. Every word sounded lived in, every note bled truth. His accent lent the song a haunting tenderness, as though the lyrics were born from his soul. When he reached the guitar solo, his hands stopped shaking. He played like a man possessed, not to impress, but to remember. The melody soared through the hall, echoing off the golden balconies. Some people began to cry. By the time he reached the final line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," the crowd was standing. Eli bowed his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. For a long moment, there was nothing. Then the applause came, thunderous and raw. Simon Cowell stood up. "That," he said quietly, voice breaking, was not just a performance. That was a story. You just left this entire room breathless. Eli could barely speak. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to sing one more time. For her. Dash dash dash. The clip went viral overnight. Poor Bodies Hotel California leaves audience breathless, screamed the headlines. Millions watched the video. This old Filipino janitor with a cracked guitar and trembling voice, singing like he'd lived 1,000 lifetimes. People across the world sent messages. You reminded me of my father. I cried for someone I lost. You gave me hope. Eli didn't understand fame. He still took the bus to work, still swept the same floors, still ate rice and sardines at night. But now, strangers stopped him on the street. They wanted photos. They wanted his story. He smiled politely, but deep down, he missed Maria more than ever. Every success, every cheer, was a whisper of her memory. He often sat by their old photo, whispering, "You see, love. They finally heard me." Dash dash dash. The next round of the competition came sooner than expected. This time, producers insisted on dressing him up, hiring stylists, giving him a band. But Eli refused the glamour. I just need my guitar, he said. And maybe, a chair. He stepped onto the stage once again, this time to sing an original song he'd written for Maria called, The Rooftop Lights. It was simple, raw, and heartbreakingly honest. The audience hung on every note. When he finished, the judges were in tears again. Heidi said softly, "You remind us what music is supposed to be." Simon wiped his eyes discreetly. "You've made this entire show feel human again." Dash dash dash. As weeks passed, Eli's story spread like wildfire. News outlets called him, the poor body with a golden soul. Fans wrote songs about him. Young musicians covered his version of Hotel California. Even the Eagles' official page shared a clip, captioned, "A humble man reminds us why we wrote this song." But Eli never lost his humility. He still called his daughter back home every night. He still wore the same denim jacket. Fame hadn't changed him, it had simply given him a louder echo. However, the strain of the competition began to show. His body was old, his voice cracked more easily. Doctors warned him to rest, but he couldn't stop. "This is my last ride," he told Laura, who had become his closest friend. "If I stop now, it's like leaving her unfinished song." Laura's eyes filled with worry. "Then let's finish it right, Eli." Dash dash dash. The finals arrived, a night drenched in anticipation. The theater was packed, millions watching live. When Eli walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted in cheers. He carried his guitar, worn smooth by decades of playing. The lights dimmed. "Tonight," he said softly into the mic, "I'll sing one last time. For Maria, and for everyone who ever loved and lost." He began strumming the familiar intro of Hotel California again, but this time, slower, sadder, deeper. Each note felt like a heartbeat. The audience quieted, sensing something different. Halfway through, his voice wavered. He paused, breath hitching. The cameras zoomed in on his trembling hands. A hush fell over the room. Then, softly, he smiled. "Guess I'm checking out soon," he whispered. He finished the song, whispering the last line like a prayer. When he strummed the final chord, the crowd rose in unison, chanting his name. But Eli just sat there, eyes closed, smiling peacefully. The lights dimmed. Crew members rushed forward. Laura ran onto the stage. "Eli," she cried, shaking him gently. His guitar slipped from his fingers. His chest rose once, then fell. The doctors later said it was his heart. A simple, silent stop. He had died on stage, right after finishing the song that had carried him through life. Dash dash dash. The next morning, headlines flooded the world again. Poor Bodies Hotel California leaves audience breathless, forever. People mourned him like a national hero. Candlelight vigils appeared outside the theater. Fans left guitars, flowers, and handwritten notes on the steps. Someone played Hotel California softly from a phone, and others joined in, their voices trembling. Simon Cowell gave a statement through tears. "Eli reminded us that greatness isn't about perfection, it's about truth. He came to clean our floors, but ended up cleaning our souls." Laura found his old notebook backstage, filled with lyrics and sketches. On the last page, he had written, "If they listen, even once, Maria, then I did what I was born to do." Dash dash dash. A few months later, the Dolby Theater unveiled a small bronze plaque near the backstage entrance. It read, Eli Ramos, the poor body WHO taught us how to feel. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. Every night, after the crowds left and the lights dimmed, the janitors swore they could still hear faint music drifting through the hall. A man's voice, low and broken, singing about a hotel where you could check out any time, but never truly leave. And sometimes, if you listened closely, you might hear a second voice too, soft, female, laughing, dancing barefoot across the stars. Together, they sang, eternal and free.